Let's just do that. What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? Hi. Welcome to another episode of Misinterpreting Movies. I have a confession to make. I feel like you have something to say.
What up, simps? We're back again.
See, I knew your intro would be cooler than mine. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of Misinterpreting Movies. I am probably the simp to which you are referring. This is Joe.
You're speaking to the guy who's paying for the Patreon for the podcast that he's on.
That's true.
I am the Simp King. I am Mr. Simpson.
That's your rap name, Joe Simpson. So, welcome to another episode of Misinterpreting Movies. This is the intro, and I have a confession to make. I did not write an intro for this week, so
misinterpreting all the movies that you've seen. You might not have seen all the movies we're misinterpreting.
I gotta be honest, I really didn't do a whole lot this week.
That's okay. You really
At least not for this episode.
fair play. Misinterpreting all the movies that you've seen.
So this episode is gonna be like a McDonald's Chicken McNugget. Whole lot of filler.
Movies we're misinterpreting. That's alright.
How dare you speak ill of McDonald's chicken nuggets?
All right, and we are ready to podcast for you guys. And I'm speaking slowly in order to pad the time.
You realize there's no word count for this, right?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to remember to consider that I am not Charles Dickens, and I don't have to. I'm not getting paid by the word here.
Okay, so you brought up Charles Dickens. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw my post on Instagram earlier.
I did. Hold on.
Okay.
Before you get into this post, I meant to tell you this off air during the pre-production, but we got off on a tangent that you guys can hear at
www.patreon.com/mmoviepod.
And I meant to text you about it. I didn't. I meant to message you on Facebook about it. I didn't. I meant to send you a message on Instagram. I did not. However, I want you to talk about your post, and I just want to make sure I have everyone's attention, especially Sarah, because Sarah was talking to me about this exact same thing, and I need her to listen. Are you listening? Hey, stop what you're doing. Listen. Full attention for like 5 seconds, and go.
Okay, so in preparation for the episode we're going to do about Lovecraft Country, I have read the book, or I've listened to the audiobook. Okay, I don't care what your debate is on whether reading books is really reading books or listening to audiobooks is reading books. It's a fucking book. I'm getting it in my head. Shut the fuck up. Sometimes I don't have time to fucking read with my eyes, because I do it at work a lot. I listen to podcasts at work, and I listen to audiobooks at work, and I'm going through so many books and I'm enjoying myself. Bitch, don't kill my vibe. I'm still reading the book. But I finished Lovecraft Country, and I remember Sarah talking about the fact that she was reading or had read The Count of Monte Cristo.
I feel like it's time. Continue.
For fuck's sake, I looked at the time frame that I had for that book. 46 hours. 46 fucking hours. That's almost 2 days straight of fucking time for that book. Why is it so long?
I think this is a record for how quickly we got to Joe rant music.
I will tell you exactly why it's so long, because the fucking flowery fucking prose that Dumas uses And oh, good sir, if you beseech thee, I pray upon you, please listen to my heart's desire and tell. Fuck you. Get to the fucking part where you're trying to say something. If you got something, where am I going? How hard was that? Please, sir, I beg you, sir, I beseech you on your good nature. If you find it in your heart, please tell me where this boat is heading. Fuck that. Do you see how long that took versus... Dude, what the hell? Where are we going? Do you see how easy that was? So much time could be taken away from that, and I'm gonna enjoy it. I know I'm gonna enjoy it. I needed to pick up and really get to the meat of it, and that's what it is. This is all the setup and everything beforehand. But for God fucking sakes, 46 fucking hours, 46 fucking hours for a book.
You know, I just want to say that for me, what's been a lifesaver for audiobooks, that's a record Joe tangent. I haven't even told people what the topic is for this episode yet, but a lifesaver for me is setting the audiobook to play at maybe like 1.2 speed.
No. I've said it at one. I've already said it at 1.2 or like 1.5.
Yeah.
There's still just so much of that shit to get through. It doesn't matter. And then the worst thing is if I lose concentration because I'm doing something at work, then it's a whole bunch of flowery bullshit that I start to forget like what's actually going on because there's all this extra shit, extraneous shit that's just going on where I'm just like, wait, what was going on again? Like, I don't even know who's talking now.
So I cannot wait for you guys to have this episode where you talk about this.
It doesn't even have anything to do with Lovecraft Country. You know what? The Lovecraft Country book, that was easy to get through. So freaking easy. Why? Because we're not talking in fucking Shakespearean ass, fucking old ass, fucking old French fucking literature ass fucking bullshit.
Okay. So now that we've gotten that settled, I had no idea it was going to be that much of a rant. I am so happy it was. That's that chicken McNugget filler I was looking for.
And you know what? Who turns down chicken McNuggets? No one.
I don't.
So there you go.
I don't.
Oh, dude, they brought back the spicy nuggets.
What?
I was so happy. Yes. I rolled up we had a meeting at my place of work that, you also know where I work.
Yeah.
And I literally just brought my nuggets there and was just eating them in the meeting. And everyone was like, you seem like you're happy. And I'm like, yep. And stuck another nugget in my mouth.
And you were like, this could have been an email, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
So before we get into, we're going to do your Black History Month shout outs. Actually, you know what? Do that first, and then I will tell everyone what we're going to do with the podcast and what this episode is going to be about, and some plans I have for the very near future. And do you want any music for your shout out?
See, I should have asked you for the most African sounding music beforehand. I wasn't thinking.
I should.
Next week we're gonna really black it up. I mean, Fela Kuti, just straight up.
I'm very much on board with that.
I figured you would be.
I am 100%, 1,500,000% on board with that.
Yes.
So, in the meantime, I'll just let you go a cappella.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to bring up is a comic book for all of you comic book fans out there. It's one that is fairly new, only been for the past couple of years. It's called Bitterroot. I'm actually wearing a Bitterroot t-shirt right now. And this is actually the book. Let me try to get it out of the light so people can see as best you can.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Bitterroot is a Image comic. If you're familiar with Image comics are very they give so much creative control to the makers, the writers, the artists and stuff. So it's very creator driven. So Bitterroot is written by David F. Walker, who I'm a big fan of. He's worked on so many books. He did a run on Luke Cage, which I loved. It was actually Luke Cage's last solo title. He's done Nighthawk. He's actually done a couple of books for Shaft, and like really, really good. Like, as much as you can kind of make a joke of Shaft sometimes when it comes to the movies, his comics featuring Shaft are much more like hard-nosed, like interesting reads. They're gonna read more like a little bit less black exploitation and more like black crime noir in a way. But the other writer on the book is Chuck Brown, and then you have the artist who is Sanford Green. Now I've actually met them. Chuck Brown, not as much. I think I've only talked to him briefly. One of my favorite things about New York Comic Con and San Diego to a degree is I've gotten to chat with David F. Walker a few times, and it's always enjoyable to the point where he signed a Luke Cage prop that I made from the TV show. At the first time I met him, he loved it and thought it was great, which I actually showed to the actor who played Luke Cage, and got him to sign it as well. Mike Coulter.
Terry Crews, who? You don't need Terry Crews in your life.
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't need Terry Crews. But and if I get a second to gush, Mike Coulter Mike Coulter and David F. Walker like the prop. Mike Coulter said he thought it looked like we just basically grabbed it off the set. So I was really, really proud of that. But ever since I met David Walker and he had signed that, not like I've talked to him like I know him personally, but I always say hi to him at cons. He remembers me and my girlfriend, speaks to us. We usually get a picture together like every year, which is awesome. And like, it's one of my favorite things. And like, one of the reasons he stands out, because I'm just like, he was so cool to talk to and really, really, try to get to understand like how he approached some of his characters and stuff like that. And ever since he started talking about Bitterroot, I've been a fan. I've been supportive. He also has his own comics I was going to say imprint. All of a sudden, my brain started switching to like record labels and stuff like that. And it's like imprints, his own label and stuff like that. But he has his own comics line, Solid Comics. I'll give you the information so you can post that up.
Yes,
but
please do.
Bitterroot is through Image. Fantastic book. The artwork is great. Sanford Green makes amazing art. They actually, when David Walker was doing Power Man and Iron Fist, he did the art for that, and just like some of the, especially when they were taking like old school like hip hop tones for like the way like the covers looked and stuff like that. It was just amazing. But I love their work. Bitterroot basically comes around. It was about a family that basically fights demons, you might as well say. But they're not demons in the regular way they're demons. They're demons who are the product of racism. So it's basically, if you have people who become... Yeah, basically, yeah. So basically, that's the idea. Depending how dark a person's heart is, and, with racism, literally, they become demons. And they have to dispatch to take care of them. Like there's one where a racist cop becomes a demon right before another cop's eyes. And unfortunately, there's not really a way to reverse it, or at least they haven't come to that in the comics. I'm not sure if they're going to. But you just have to put him down. And there's the entire family is badass because it's part magic. magic and going back to like black magic, not black magic and like evil magic, but black magic and the magic of black people, the sort of rituals and things passed down through from Africa and things like that.
Okay.
You also have some of them who lean more towards scientists. The guy on the cover, he's actually, I love this fact. And it's been a while since I've read it. I need to jump back into them. I have some issues, and I need to pick up some more from my favorite comic book store, which I will get to in another podcast. But the guy on the cover that I just showed you, literally big beefy dude, you're just like, oh, he's all muscle. No, he is so well read and eloquent in his speaking. Like, he used the way I've had people talk to me about using big words before. He is so much further beyond where I am. Like, this is the kind of eloquence that I would aspire to be if it wasn't for the fact that I like kind of like bringing it down and being more, I don't want to say down to earth, because he's not an uppity person. He's not an uppity character.
Right.
But I just love the fact he's very eloquent. His vocabulary is so extensive, and he's basically like a gentle, well mannered, well held person, while being like this big beefy dude who you look at and you're just like, yeah, I don't want any part of that.
Like a guy you'd probably see on the cover of Down the 101. And if you guys didn't get that joke, that means you didn't see the bonus episode where I posted our conversation we had before this episode started. That was a callback. And I'm not even going to explain it. You just have to watch it to know what we were talking about.
Yep. Well, so that's going to make this next shout out slightly awkward now. Thanks a lot, Tyrice.
I'll mention something in between. That way we can have a bit of separation. How about that?
Okay. I'll let you do that then.
I got these really good waffles with like brown sugar. They're just Eggo waffles, and they have brown sugar baked into them. So it tastes like you're eating French toast. So it's like you don't have to choose between French toast or waffles. You can have them both in the same food item. It's like kind of like a French toast flavor. Yes, it's got the brown sugar, and it gives it a French toast flavor, but it's a frozen waffle. So you don't have to choose, do I want French toast today or waffle? You can get both in the same product.
See, now I have to try that because I feel hella suspicious.
It's really good.
The texture of French toast is the one thing which I enjoy French toast, but I don't always think I like the texture of French toast. Sometimes it's just not super agreeable.
I love it. The mushier, the better.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree on that one,
and we'll settle it when we have our breakfast war.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's another callback. But
yes.
Now that I got a bit of separation from that last topic, you can go ahead and give your second.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The next shout out I want to do is actually very personal to me. I want to shout out my eldest daughter, Nia Smith. She has been doing like makeup and photography for a bit now, and just really, really, really impressive work. I reposted some of her work on Facebook, and I guess not really that many people are really following me on Facebook.
No, I mean,
some of you are.
If you give me the same thing, if you give me the links, I will post it wherever I can in the descriptions.
Well, I will post directly to her Facebook. She has a Facebook set up to show off her work. But she's way, when you, and not everyone's going to be able to relate to this, because I know not everyone listening to this has kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, so far the listenership is a lot of people that we know personally. So it's not a whole bunch of people from people that we know who have kids. But when you have a friend and you just like, they're just like, oh yeah, I did this thing, and you're just like, oh cool, like I'm interested to see it.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you're just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like,
you didn't say it was this.
Yeah, like you just kind of just like, oh, I did something. Like, not like this is amazing.
Your excitement level didn't match what it should. Exactly. with what you created.
you did not prepare me for the level of excitement
yeah.
for what I should be feeling when I see this.
Right.
And I know it's easy to say, she's my eldest daughter. Obviously, I'm her dad. I'm gonna be, it's the best stuff in the world. She's the greatest and everything. But I love the fact that she's like me in so many ways. Unfortunately, she's like me in a way that we actually look very much alike, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Okay. Oh God, I'm gonna send you a picture, Tyrice. We're gonna do this real time. So Tyrice is going to be waiting to look at his phone.
I'm
waiting. Going to send him a picture. Now, this was a picture she took on her own with one of those filters, the filters that, change your gender. Mm-hmm. So this was unedited.
Okay.
Of a picture. Oh, well, not unedited. Obviously, it was edited because it was the thing. But this is what she sent to me as just like, hey, check this out. And, this is what she looks like when she used the filter to change her gender.
I'm going to post some.
I'm sending it to you in Messenger.
I'm going to play some on-hold music here.
Okay. So it should be sending now.
It's just... I just see a picture of you. Why'd you send me a selfie?
Exactly. That is the most horrifying thing for her, not for me, because my daughter is beautiful, and I really do think she's beautiful. But it's so weird that if you look at a picture of her, you're just like, it's kind of just you with like a wig and makeup.
I tell you what, if you get her permission, I will use that as a thumbnail image for this week's episode.
Okay.
The streaming. I'll use that as the background. Instead of the television, I'll use that as the.
Ooh, that may be
only if you have her permission. If we get her permission.
I tell you what, I will alternately offer a picture of the two of us next to each other.
Okay.
Which might be a better chance of that one. Which is completely weird. You remember that she was born when we were in high school together. Mm-hmm. It is weird that people look at us sometimes and it's just like, you would think that we were like brother and sister more. Yeah. Just from the looks that we are right. Daughter. Like my mom loves to say, like, no. She's absolutely 100% your child because you basically just cloned yourself.
Can't deny her.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be the worst Maury episode ever.
It would, because everyone would just like, no, dude, Maury just like, sir, we didn't need to do a test.
Right.
Like, just please, can we get new glasses and new prescription for him? Because it's plain as day. But her work is beautiful. Right. I am not a photographer. I certainly don't know what to do with makeup, but her work is really, really something else. And I just want to see her, push forward and do well. She uses some of her skills for doing things like covering Black issues and stuff like that. So, and I've been really proud of her for doing things like that. So I felt like this would be somewhat selfish, I guess, but a really cool shout out that I can do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I will absolutely link to that and tell people where to find more of her stuff. And if she wants to have some stuff, we'll figure out a way to work it into some episodes if we can like actually put stuff like in the YouTube videos. But we will figure all that out. But I'm here to help. However, I feel like we can use our platform to promote good art made by good people. Yes. So I'm here for that 100%. So to tell people what this episode is going to be about, I said there was going to be a lot of filler, and that was correct because I didn't do a lot of writing for the script this week, and I'm trying to keep to the format that I want us to have, where we have 1 week where we do a really in-depth analysis and 1 week where we don't do as much of an analysis. That way it'll give me 2 weeks to really get some good writing done and really make each episode up to standard that I would like to keep. But
believe it or not, people, we have standards.
I know, at least in the podcast world.
At least.
But I've had a lot of people come to me and tell you
they hate the show now. Gotcha.
I've had a couple, but
oh, really?
Not now, but just throughout the whole process, they was like, it's just not for me.
Okay.
No one's blatantly said, I hate that.
For a second there, it was just like, oh, you mean since I've joined? I was like, I knew it. Confirmed.
I mean, who knows? Some people might. I don't care. I love it. That's all that matters. I love it. We're having fun. What else matters?
I'm laughing now. The breakdown comes later.
When we turn the mics off, that's when the breakdown happens.
Yes.
But so a lot of people have come to me and have mentioned that they've been wanting to start a podcast of their own. And this is actually, it surprised me for a couple reasons, because I didn't know that podcasts were as popular as they are.
See, I had no idea. You said that before, and it's amazing that you said that, because I've been a fan of podcasts for literally like so long.
I had no idea, and so have I, but I mean, not as much as I am now, but I've always thought that it was just a me thing, because I never had conversations with people who talked about podcasts. It's just never.
Yeah. Talking about podcasts was this thing that never really, that's more of a recent, for not the past 3-4 years maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
so that just it just shocked me that was a thing that people cared about. It shocked me that people also wanted to start their own, that they had a desire to do that, because again, when I came up with this plan to start a podcast, my thought process was I want to have guests on, but who is going to want to do this? Who is even going to care that I'm doing this? I don't know if anyone is even going to care, because I don't know if anyone cares about podcasts. And the final thing,
did you know?
I know. Look at what happens when I speak out, and not live in my own head. And the final thing that's surprising about people who have come to me is they're coming to me for advice on how to start their own. They'll say things like, I've always wanted to start one, but I have no idea how. I don't know where to begin. Can you help me? And that's shocking to me, because I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go, but there's so much that I don't know. And it feels like when they're asking me for advice, it feels like, well, why are you asking me? I'm just as lost as you are. Like, I don't, what? But yeah. I understand that I spent a lot of time doing research into how to get this thing up and running, and I am bringing a lot of knowledge from the past hobbies that I've had. The time that I spent recording music taught me how to record audio. The time I spent doing movie stuff taught me how to edit, how to work in these editing programs that I use. Also helped me with lighting, and I have lighting equipment that I bought from when I was making movies, so I'm using that too. So over the course of, years, like years and years and years, I've accumulated this gear that's pretty expensive, but I bought it piece by piece over the years. So now here I am putting it all together. But a lot of people have still asked me how to start a podcast, and I wanted to do a couple episodes on helping people out with that, because I had to sift through a lot of information, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of tutorials, and a lot of good information and a lot of terrible information. And there's a lot of bad information out there. And I just want to help people with, I'm going to do it. I'm finally putting together some audio and some YouTube videos on how to start a podcast, or rather what I've learned so far on how to start a podcast. I touched on it earlier in a previous episode, but I'm going to do more in depth now. And I'm going to tell you one last thing about the plan moving forward, and how the format for these episodes are, how I'm going to put this information out there. So for this episode, I want us to just talk about the non-technical side of it. Like, we're going to talk about the up here part. You can't, if you're listening, you can't see me. I'm pointing to my brain. We're going to talk about the up here part, and also here, I'm pointing to my heart right now. But I want to talk about the things about creating a podcast that don't involve microphones, don't involve recorders, and all these technical things. I just want to talk about the why do you want to create, and what drives us, and what motivates us, and the nature of art, and how outside influence, and just things that a lot of content creators are going to have to deal with that go beyond just speaking into a microphone. I'm going to do a separate video that's going to be for free. That's going to go over the technical side of it, which microphones to buy, how to set up the microphones, how to upload it, things like that. And then finally, I'm going to have a paid video where I go into more detail about the technical things. And I talk about the different types of microphones. I talk about different things you can do to get better sound, different things you can do to get better audio, and how to edit in different audio programs, stuff like that. And it's a pretty ambitious plan. And if I don't follow through on all of those, sorry. But I want to do my best. And hopefully by the time I post this, I will either be done with or almost done with the free version of just the basics of the technical things. Now, with that being said, Joe, I know that you are eventually going to do your own podcast. And
eventually, yes.
Hopefully that doesn't mean that you're going to leave me. But if you do, that's 100% okay.
No. We're going to start a network. We're going to start a podcast network.
Yes, I'm here for that. Yes.
Just bring it all in.
That's a great idea. Oh man, if I didn't have a day job, I would produce for other people. And have that start. What? Giving away ideas. All that secret. We're not gonna talk about that.
You guys don't get the milk for free. Put a ring on this cow.
Yeah.
Patreon. Where?
www.patreon.com/mmoviepod. So yeah, I want to share So first of all, so I know that you want to start your own podcast. So before I ramble on even more than I already have, do you want to share anything? And it's okay if you say no, because I have more things that I can ramble about while you collect your thoughts. But do you want to share kind of your thoughts on what podcasts, what they mean to you and what you get from them, and kind of what you want to put out there by making your own, and not just the content itself, but like what kind of energy do you want to put into the world when your podcast is out there? Like why is this something that you want to do, for lack of a better way to put it? Okay,
well, so I'm going to turn around on you also afterwards because
I'm in the hot seat.
Podcasts. You've listened to podcasts, but you said you didn't realize like really podcasting was like such a thing until later on. I had no idea. So I'll go ahead and explain it from my point, just because like I've told people that I've listened to podcasts for a while. The first podcast I think I ever listened to was technically it was watching. So back when G4 was originally around, they had podcast episodes of Attack of the Show, which were basically just clips from the show that they would put onto a podcast. Me listening and watching on my Zune. I had a Zune, people. I did get an iPod later, but it was a Nano and blah blah blah, but I had a Zune, and Zunes are great. Zunes are awesome. If you talk shit about Zunes were fucking rad.
No, it's a shame what happened to Zune. It's a shame.
They had such a good product, which I feel like now today people would have been just like, oh yeah, we get it, like it makes sense. But
yeah, for sure.
But so that was like the first one, and it was just interesting because it was just like I liked G4, I liked Attack of the Show. It was more getting more content from the thing that I like. So that's always going to be good. If you like something, you can get more content from it. You're going to be happy. So going on later, start listening to like other podcasts. Some of them like stuck, some of them didn't. One podcast I listened to was called Issue Oriented, with Ronan Kaufman. So he was a singer in a couple of punk bands, and so all of his podcasts featured different musicians from different bands.
That sounds really.
It was so good. It ended like years ago, and he's actually a teacher now, which I think is like awesome. He still does like shows, like every now and then he'll do like a music project, but he's a teacher now. It's awesome. He's a teacher. He does yoga, which I don't do yoga. That's not really my thing. But he also collects like toys, and he has like a huge like Transformers collection, and I'm just like, there's so many things like I relate to you about.
Right.
It's so awesome. But I want to say that was the first podcast I kind of fell in love with, and the thing I loved about it is, to me, what really got me into podcasting was it felt like someone taking you into your home and sharing stories with you. And it also, and I feel like a lot of people feel this way about podcasts if they have a podcast they really love. It's like being with friends.
Yep.
Now, you can't speak to these friends really unless you like leave like some kind of comment or, listener mail or something like that. But it had that familiar feeling of being with friends, being with people that you can appreciate and maybe appreciate the same things as you. And just, hearing stories or just being part of whatever fun they're having. And that's like what really affected me about podcasts. I've moved on to other podcasts. I was a big fan of the Nerdist podcast.
Right.
I was a huge fan. I was pretty much a big Chris Hardwick fan about everything. I will say that I stopped listening after the allegations, and I know, like, I guess in the public eye, he's been cleared of everything, but I've never been able to go back. So I'm still just like, I don't feel comfortable with it, which was sad because I religiously listened to that podcast. That was literally the podcast that really felt like I was sitting with some friends, and they would just tell comedy jokes or have interesting guests, and it was literally like the thing that just like, oh man, I can't wait to the next episode when such and such is going to be on. I can't wait to this. Like, they got to poignant things, they got to silly things. That is the origin of where I heard local jokes are for like local folks, or that line. That's where I got it from.
And then we went off on a tangent about our favorite Scrapple spots.
Yeah, exactly. Which they kept going off on tangents about local things. So, but that was the first one I think really captured me in a way that I was just like, this is my weekly sit down, hanging out with friends and just shooting the shit. I may not be adding anything to it, but it's okay because I feel like a part of something. And it's gone for many other podcasts. God, I listen to so many different podcasts now because there's like, that was a comedy and entertainment podcast, which I do. I really enjoy comedy and entertainment podcasts. I also enjoy podcasts about science. I've listened to Science Facts with Bill Nye. Ali Ward has this awesome podcast called Ologies, where they take a different scientific field, and each episode is about that. And it can be from anything from economics to they literally had a scientist who dealt with poop.
So
like literally, which was fascinating because the way she's a science communicator and then like an actress, but she approaches everything from just like, I just want to go down this rabbit hole with whatever this is and find out as much as I can.
So what? Anyway, I'm kind of interested, but so
I will send you a link.
Please do.
It's been one of my new pandemic. It's been out. She's had the podcast out for a while. I didn't really start listening to it until recently, but it's one of those things that's really helped me in the pandemic because it's just like, hey, sometimes you just need something else to focus on.
So
take your mind down this rabbit hole.
So So don't forget what you were going to ask me, by the way, how you're going to turn this back around on me. But
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, so with all of that you're getting from all these other podcasts, is that something that you want to also put out there? Do you want to give people the same thing that you're getting from these other podcasts, just in a different way?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I like the idea that I feel that, and I guess it's the same for like, since we're doing YouTube now, we're also on YouTube, but anything that kind of closes somewhat of a chasm between people and just like, hey, let's talk about these things. And not everyone's going to agree on everything, but it can be really cool if you find something that kind of clicks with you and you can be just like, okay, this is my respite from this.
Right.
Or conversely, because I guess the kind of podcasts I'm going to do when I do one is going to be maybe a bit more, it's going to be a bit more pop culture based and more dealing with fandoms and stuff.
Right.
But I like the idea that it's going to be, it's really going to be me talking to people and trying to find out, what this thing they were a fan of, and like, we're going to deal with nostalgia versus how we see it today. And like, even the stuff that you can poke fun at that you're just like, man, this was ridiculous, I can't believe I was into this.
Yep.
It's still the stuff that still like pumps you up and you're just like, yeah, I'm still a fan of this. I know this is ridiculous.
Yep.
But just like, this is still like, I still find this awesome for some reason. Like,
Relatable.
yeah, like sometimes the way I look at it for that podcast in particular is going to be like, everyone talks about phases in life, especially parents, like, you're going to grow out of this. You're going to grow out of this. You may like grow up, but that doesn't mean like you may grow out of where you were with that, but it doesn't mean that thing like leaves you necessarily. That thing may just be a part of you. Maybe it takes up a smaller part of your life, but it doesn't mean that it leaves you.
Right.
And it's something that meant something to you, and I like the idea of being like, hey, this is something that meant a lot to me. Maybe I don't love it as much as now, or maybe I love it just as much as I did then, but it's still something that has an attachment for me. And
Right.
just, giving a chance for people to kind of, I'm trying to think of the best word. I don't even want to say bask in it, but just kind of be in that moment again.
Yeah, no,
So.
that makes complete sense. And I think that's a wonderful idea. And you also, this should go without saying, but you also have access to whatever resources I have, you have. So whatever resources, whatever like equipment or whatever, if you have any questions about anything, if you need a guest and you have to record a show and you have 5 minutes that before you start recording and you need I'm there. So what did you want to turn around on me?
So here's the thing.
I'm ready.
Because you did enjoy podcasts, we just didn't really see. I want to just the same way. I just wanted to hear about your connection to podcasts, what you get from podcasts, what made you start listening to podcasts, and what made you finally go, I want to do one. Because for me, it was something I didn't really think of. I guess to go on a little bit more about for me before I finish completely throwing it to you. There's a podcast that I actually just started listening back to today because I just realized they were doing new episodes of it, and I'm so excited that it's back. But there's a podcast called Blurred Vision. My first time ever being a podcast guest was on that show.
Nice.
So shout out to Jordan and Michael from Blurred Vision. Like, I guess I didn't see this coming about, but hey, I owe this to them, and I owe this to my friend Joseph Simpson and Carter Moon. But basically, I got started. I won a guest host spot on Blurred Vision podcast.
Nice.
So I did it, and it was fun. I had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. I was like, man, like, I'm enjoying this. I'm chatting. Like, they didn't tell me I sucked, so I'm like, okay, like, we're going pretty well so far. And they actually had it where I came back on a couple times, like sometimes in like just small things, like because it was a podcast about pop culture and stuff like that.
Right.
So talking about how I felt about certain movies and stuff. We're talking about a lot of the big MCU moments and stuff like that. And then they had other guest hosts because they ran it as like a little contest, and we had one where we all joined in together. And did one big like guest host episode, and I still have I'm still part of the Instagram group where we all kind of chat now and then. So it's interesting because a couple of the people have started podcasts themselves. One of the guys is a comedian, has his own like comedy kind of show that he's kind of doing, and all that's awesome. So I went from being guest on there to I did a couple of guest spots on a for a podcast that was done by Merry-Go-Round Magazine. They had a different name before, and this is when Carter Moon was running it, and Joseph Simpson was writing for it. And me and Joseph had met during Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con. The first year I went, we wind up meeting each other at an Assassin's Creed little installation where you basically got to run like a ninja, like a ninja warrior style course.
Right.
And so I met up with him and his friend Kyle Ham. Two dudes, just like I didn't know from anywhere. They're from California. We met up for whatever reason, hit it off, clicked, and have kind of kept in touch and everything. But Joseph asked me if I would be interested in doing a podcast episode about like the MC, like Marvel movies and stuff, and kind of how that in juxtaposition to regular movies. And this was around the time that the Marvel and Fox deal was going through. So we had an interesting discussion about comic book movies, and then how they affect and how the success of the Marvel movies affect, like, regular movies and stuff. It was an interesting discussion. And they actually had me back on another episode to talk about Us. Which was great when that came out, talking about that. So those were my guest spots that I got to do. And then, of course, when you started misinterpreting movies and you were just like, hey, anyone want to do it? I was like, well, yeah, I'd be interested in everything.
Right. And
then we wind up doing, a bunch of episodes together before leading to now being a
conglomerate.
A conglomerate. Yes.
I don't know. That's not true, but
yeah,
eventually.
But to being a co-host, so it's just weird that like I loved podcasts and stuff, and then somehow strangely opportunities started popping up.
Yeah, man.
For me, when I didn't really express that I wanted to be a podcaster, it was just something that kind of happened. But it was something that was just like, the more I did it, the more I was like, man, I'm really enjoying this. This is really fun.
You're natural.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it had started to be something that I was thinking about pursuing. And I've been talking about it and kind of threatening to do it for over 2019. So when you asked me to be a guest, because I hadn't been a podcast guest in a while, that really meant a lot to me, because I was just like, man, I'm getting to do it again. And I didn't say anything about that, because I was just like, I'm not trying to just throw that much on him with all the backstory and everything. And then when you asked me to be a co-host, I was just like, part of me is just like, I'm gonna like get hit by a truck.
Yeah.
Like, truck coon's gonna hit me as soon as I step out like of the house or something like that, because there's no way that
There's
this is
another
kinda
episode that we
happening
have
on
to
its
do.
own.
There's another episode we're gonna have to do. Like, oh my gosh, something good is happening. I'm totally gonna get hit by a truck. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna follow me. The piano is gonna fall on my head.
That's gonna be a lengthy discussion.
Well, it's fun.
But
It's funny you say that, because again, it's the thing where, I've talked to a lot of people when I've asked them to be on the podcast, when I was having guests on, which I still want to have, but when I reach out to people and ask them to be a guest, I would thank them, and before I get a chance to thank them for agreeing to it, they would say, well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you. And I'm like, I should be thanking you. Like, you don't understand. You're doing me a favor. And it's just that attitude towards that the fact that what I'm doing mattered to them so much. And the fact that this podcasting was so important to them, like, I felt like they were treating me like a rock star. Like, thank you for this opportunity to appear on your album. Like, I'm just talking into a microphone. And that's what I meant when I said that I didn't understand the impact and the love that people had for podcasts. Because when you got really excited about me asking you to help, and when other people got excited about coming on and being a guest, it wasn't because I was some huge famous podcaster or anything. It was because podcasts are cool and you spend so much time listening to podcasts and you've always wanted to make your own. And that part to me was surprising to me. But as far as like my journey in podcasting, I didn't necessarily get into it for the same reasons. I think the first podcast I listened to was back in, this was like maybe 2006 or 7 or somewhere. It was way, way back. And this was, it was a mixed martial arts podcast. And it was called, it was a mixed martial arts podcast. It was on, I forget what it was called exactly, but there was a whole network. And I listened to it because at the time, and way more so then than now, I was a huge fan of MMA. And they would talk about UFC events that were happening then. And this was before there was a new UFC on every weekend. This was before people even cared about UFC. And they would talk about UFC events, and they would talk about fights and talk about upcoming fights, and they would interview fighters, and they would also talk about the lesser known organizations in Japan and things like that, and they would really go in depth talking about this stuff. And it was the only place where I could go to get this information. It wasn't happening anywhere else. It was really kind of like an underground feel to it. Mm-hmm. And there was actually a forum called The Underground, where a lot of fighters would actually post to the forum. So they would interact with the fans on these forums, because to me, these guys were mega star athletes. But in reality, they were just normal dudes who were fighting each other in a cage. Like, they weren't making millions of dollars. So they still had contact with the fans. And the other cool thing about that is, because they weren't famous athletes, you could go to an MMA gym and train with these guys and then see them on TV later that month. Like, there was the same way that you could kind of feel like you were becoming, like these people were your friend. The same way you felt this sense of community, you felt that with MMA, because these guys were in your community. These guys, you could reach out and touch them. You could go to a gym in Philly and fight, Eddie Alvarez if you wanted to. Like, you could.
I don't know why you would want to.
I would not, but you could if you wanted to. And that's what was so cool about it. And then you have these guys who are just fans of the sport talking about it over this podcast, and that's when I would listen to that I forget what days it was released, but I was also working overnights then. And I had a lot of downtime to listen to them. So that's how I passed my time, is listening to this. And it was just really, really cool. So I listened to that for years, and then I kind of got out of it because podcasts weren't really a thing. And then I started listening to when I moved away from where I used to live in like 2008, and I moved into a market with this really funny radio show. And it was, for those who are listening in the Philly area, it's 93.3 WMMR. I listen to the Preston and Steve show every morning. And what happened was I changed my work schedule around, so I started to miss the episodes. But then once podcasts started to pick up steam, they would upload the full episodes on the internet later. So I would download them. Again, not really a podcast, but pretty close to it. So I would download the episodes later.
I'd still call it a podcast.
It's a podcast now, but not in the sense that we think of them today. It was a traditional
podcast.
Radio show that they would put up for download later. So I would listen to that, and then the sports radio station started doing the same thing. So I would download that, and that's how I started getting into podcasts. I would download them, and then once podcasting became more mainstream, they started making them easier to access. Now you didn't have to download them; you could just stream them. You could just, they were there, and it was really a really cool evolution. So then I started listening to a podcast that I listen to a lot now. I listen to the Joe Budden podcast all the time, but still, I just listened to them, and I never really thought to make my own. The thought never crossed my mind that I should be doing this until quarantine happened. So, and you know this about me, and a lot of people listening probably know this about me too, but I'm going to go and retell it anyway. But so much of my life and my earliest memory that I can remember, one of the earliest memories, is of me learning how to write letters and learning how to make sentences. And I remember this was sometime in elementary school. I don't know when, but we had those giant pieces of paper with the, I don't know what it's called, but when you're practicing your alphabet and it's like the giant margins with the dotted line in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what to call them either, but yeah.
So we had one of those, and once we started to learn, we had to write a full story. Maybe it was like 2 sentences, but it was a story in my mind. That's how my mind remembers it. So we had to write a full story. And I remember just having a blast. Some of the other kids complained. They were like, we have to write a full page. And I'm like, this is fun. Can we just do this all the time?
Yeah.
And so one of my earliest memories is of just writing and making stories. And, I'm going to go into detail about this later for a different episode, but I went through different phases where I wanted to write stories. I had this desire to write like a full-length novel. I started to draw comics. I had this desire to draw comics. I remember the comics. Yes, right. I got into movies. I wanted to make movies. I got into music. It was writing music and writing song lyrics. And one day I was sitting there, and I was sitting, and I was alone with my thoughts, as I am a lie. I like being alone with my thoughts. And I'm like, man, this isn't like, this would sound conceited to say it out loud, but it's not conceited. But I do a lot of stuff. Like I do a lot of. That's
not conceited
right,
at all.
It's
that's
not
accurate.
It's not, and like I don't. When I say it, I could understand it would come off as conceited, but that's not where my mind was then. I was like, I do a lot of stuff, and I'm getting to a point where I do so much stuff that I'm good at a lot of things, but not great at any one thing, and I want to be great at something. So where should I put my energy into? Because I only have a limited amount of time in a day to do a thing. So I want to focus on something. Like I owe it to myself to focus on one thing. Do I want to focus on music? Do I want to focus on like filmmaking? Do I want to focus on writing? Which one is it? And writing won out. So I started to write more and more and more and more and more. And I also started to kind of think about what all of these things had in common. Like, why do I jump from one thing to another? Why do this week I want to be a musician, this week I want to be a filmmaker, this week I want to be a writer, this week I want to be a novelist, this week I want to be a comic book artist. Like, what is it? And
I feel like I can see it like clear as day, but I'll let you go ahead.
Okay.
And
the conclusion I came to was I just like creating stories. I like telling stories. And that is the thread that runs throughout all of these things is I like being able to sit down and create my own world. And I started to realize that in the beginning as a kid, that desire to create came from I don't like the world that I'm living in. This is a scary world. Everything terrifies me. I'm going to create my own world over here. And that's why I'm going to write these stories. But now what I do is this is how I know to communicate my ideas is through stories. So I have all these thoughts in my head all the time, and I sit down and I write them down on paper, and I get them to paper, and then I take what's on paper and turn it into a story that kind of explains what I'm thinking through using metaphors and things like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I like telling stories, why don't I just talk into a microphone and just cut out the middleman and just tell stories that way? And I'm pretty good at talking. Like, I talk to people and they seem to like talking to me, so why don't I try to do this? And to shorten the story up a little bit, I eventually decided to just go ahead and do it, and I bought some gear. It was around tax time, and I got some tax money back, and I went in and bought some final things that I thought I would need, and I recorded my first podcast episode. It was awful. I made a million mistakes, but it was okay. I made a million mistakes, and I listened back to what I recorded, and I was just like, wow, this is terrible. This is awful. Not even content-wise, just the audio quality is just bad. I made so many mistakes, and I got really discouraged, and I put it away for like 6-7 months to a year probably, and I gave up on it. And then when quarantine happened, I was like, okay, you know what? I got nothing but time. And I really want to do this, and this keeps calling me. Like, this keeps calling me, like, just do it. And, like, it's just, why not? It's so easy. And I didn't mention this part yet, but don't think I wasn't thinking of the money down the road, because a lot of people are making a lot of money doing this. And I was like, I don't know if I'll get to that level, but I owe it to myself to try. And I can commit to this, and all those other things I let fall by the wayside, the music recording, the film, I can do them all. They can all come together in this one thing. And it was just like a light bulb. And I was like, I've been training for this my whole life. All the other things I've worked on were just me training and working on different pieces that are all going to come together for a podcast. And here I am doing a podcast. The end, or the end of that chapter.
No, like I like that, and don't think I haven't thought about the money thing.
Oh, of course.
Not so much as the money, but just like
I can't wait to sell out.
But just as a way to do something I enjoy, to be around the things I enjoy, because a lot of content I and not just in podcasts, but a lot of content I consume is around pop culture, and either the celebration of pop culture, analyzing, discussing pop culture. I'm really into sorry for bumping the mic.
It's fine.
I'm really into like documentaries. Like I watch documentaries about buying old video games or old games. I watched the crap out of like High Score, like anything about, video games or arcades, because I love arcades, or just like, the comic industry or things like that. Like all of that entertainment stuff I just soak up, because it's weird that it's not just like enjoying just the things, but it goes to the point where I'm interested in the history of how it developed and how it changed and how things moved on. But it was when you were making the point about all the things you were doing leading up to podcasting, and how you realized the one thing that mattered was making stories. I actually just kind of had an aha moment that I don't know if I've ever really had before.
Ooh, breaking news.
Well, no, because you talked about the reason of wanting to do this because you want to tell stories, and that's the main reason why you're into podcasting. And I know I said that, like, when I start my own, I kind of want to do things maybe it's a bit more pop culture, but for at least the first one that I plan on doing, I would love to be able to podcast for the rest of my life.
Yes, same.
Just as something to do. But how the first one's going to be kind of interviewing people and about the stuff that they were really excited about, I just realized that I think what the thing I'm really attracted to, especially for podcasting, is building and growing the sense of community and just enjoy. I want people to be able to enjoy something and express joy from something and have everyone be just like, this thing, whatever it is that we're talking about right now is awesome. Like, I want to be able to I want people, I think that's also one of the reasons I like Comic-Con, just that energy of like that positive energy is like, we like this thing.
Yeah.
Let's like this thing.
Right.
Like, that's like, I'm just like, man, that really makes so much sense now that I think about it.
Yeah, and I think that actually, now I just had an epiphany as well. I just had another light bulb just go off right now. And by you saying that, and it's that, I think you and I are taking different routes to the same destination. As far as when you start your own podcast, and when your podcast is here and my podcast is here, we're taking different routes, but it looks like we're both at our core are doing the same thing, and that's creating that sense of community. And you know, for anyone listening, not just black community, just community in general. But
not the black community, which Tyrice says doesn't exist.
It does not exist. It exists, but it doesn't exist, and its purpose is to let everyone know that it doesn't exist.
What you need to, God, I wish I had one right now. What you need to see is not. What you need to do is not try to bend a spoon, but merely realize there is no spoon.
Listen, I know it doesn't make sense, okay? But anyway, I think that we're doing the same thing, and I think that we're taking different routes to get there because, and I think they're both valid because I think for you, it's kind of this letting people, creating the sense of community and people sharing their excitement and their love for a common thing.
Yeah.
And it's similar to, like I said, with podcasts. Like, I never would have known about your interest in podcasts if I hadn't started mine and talked to you about it. We never would have had this conversation about podcasts at all. We would have went ahead on listening to our podcasts, and it maybe would have come up in conversation at some point, but who knows? Yeah. So there's that. And for me, I'm trying to do the same thing in the sense that I want people to feel a community in the sense that not for things that they love, but for things that they hate or are terrified of. And what I mean by that is I always say that I always see a lot of people who try to cover up their weaknesses or their perceived faults. And I see that a lot. And they try to project this image of strength, and nothing affects me, and I don't have feelings, I don't have emotions. But to me, putting up that front is a sign of weakness. And if you can express that and be open about your feelings, that's a sign of strength because we all have them. And if you can open that up and just express that, this huge weight is lifted off your shoulders, and you connect with other people who are feeling the same thing. So with my podcast, I like to touch on really difficult topics, but do it in a way that's kind of lighthearted and just like do it in a way that isn't it. I don't want people to feel like the world is falling down around them, but also these big, heavy issues do exist, and I do want to touch on them, and I do want to be open and be vulnerable and let people know that, hey, this thing scares me too. And someone else who is afraid of this thing or who's hurt by this thing can look at that and go, I thought I was the only one. Oh, wait, maybe I'm not crazy. Because, and it's the same way as for me, when I listen to songs that hit me a certain way, that are sad or that take an emotion and phrase it in a way that I wasn't able to, they take a feeling and put it into words. It's like, holy crap, like, a different human being who I've never met has taken my exact feelings and put them into word and set them to music. This lets me know that no matter how alone I feel, I'm not alone because I know that someone else feels this thing because they expressed it. Yeah. And I think that that can create a sense of community, and that can do a lot of good, because you never know who needs to hear something and when. You never know what someone is going through, and I just try to put that out there. And what if what if I can spread that kind of love and that self-love and acceptance? What if that could spread like COVID? What if everyone I encountered who came within 6 feet of me could learn to love themselves? So
that's I think that's awesome. I truly think that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's why I come on here, and that's why I talk about things like we talk about like police brutality, we talk about racism, we talk about depression, we talk about all these things that a lot of people are dealing with. Like, I didn't know how badly you wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons until you told me. But when I open up about Dungeons and Dragons, look at how you're like, oh my gosh, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons too. And you would have kept it all to yourself if I hadn't opened up first. Yeah. So that's something that, because for me, I don't know if anyone knows this too, but I feel a lot of feelings.
You don't even go to this school,
right?
I know. I just feel out of feelings.
Yeah, that's me. But I take those feelings and I put them into my art and my writing. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm such a deep artist. It's because that's the only way that I know, because for so long in my youth, that was all I had, and that's the way that I did things. So that's the way that I know.
I think we both know that I can relate to that. Back to the old Screamo days.
Yep. But again,
that was all catharsis. That was nothing but pure catharsis. And it was great.
If you look at that, there were people who would have made fun of both of us for making screamo music, but today
there are people who did.
but now there's people today who would be like, "Wow, Joe, your show is so good. Like your podcast, like wow, you're so good. Listen to that episode. How did you?" Well, there's years when you hated on the process. Yeah. This is the result of that work. Maybe be nicer to people who you don't understand.
Yes, exactly.
Unless they invite you over to watch porn movies, then kind of tread lightly.
Or don't tread at all.
Yes. There was another thing that I had written down here in my notes. There were a couple things that I wrote down in my notes here. And I think this thing in particular fits into what we were just talking about, and kind of me personally, what my goals are. And I know you're going to have thoughts on it, so feel free to share. Another thing that I want to do with this podcast is, my voice just cracked there. Let me get some water. There's a podcast.
We're getting serious now, folks.
Another thing, I left I should have had throat drops, but I left them in my car and I don't feel like getting them. Okay. So another thing that I want to do on my podcast and have a space for is, one thing in particular is, again, I don't know if anyone notices, you probably have, I talk about being black a lot.
You're what?
Surprise. If you haven't seen the YouTube channel yet, I'm black. But I talk about that a lot because it always bothers me when people think that there's a certain way to be black. Yes. And this happens with all people. This happens with non-black people, and this happens with black people as well. It's just that if you're not this narrow definition of black, you're not black. And it puts you in a position where you're not black enough for the black kids and not white enough for the white kids, right? Mm-hmm. And then it puts you in a position where you spend all your time at home writing stories and drawing comics and reading books. And then a few years later, you're on a podcast and people are like, wow, how did you teach yourself how to do all these things? Well, that's what happens when you don't really have friends. Now, but what I want to do is I want to do my part to end that kind of that thought, or it's not, stigma isn't the word, but to end that thought process of there only being a few ways to be black, and saying that people can act a certain color, or saying that such and such person is the whitest black guy I know, or you're acting it like that. That needs to go altogether. And I want to do my part.
Get rid of the term Oreo.
Yeah, right. Let's get that out of here.
Unless you're Van Jones.
You leave Van Jones alone. He's a good man.
Did you hear he was upset after the way he was talked to on The View?
No, was he?
Like, yeah, apparently. I'm like, bro, if The View felt like it was too hard for you, you don't go to the hood.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I want to do my part to kind of just, I don't.
I underagree. I underagree. Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that?
I overstand and underagree. So, I'm sorry, I just stepped on your thought. You were gonna share something.
No, that was beautiful though. That was honestly beautiful. But no, it's I really like that. I like the fact that we're a black podcast, but we're not a black podcast.
Yeah.
In so many ways, like we're not exclusively about black situations, circumstances, I guess, but more in the fact of we're black, so all of these are going to factor in and influence the way we look at things, the way we think about things, how we see things. And that's important. I think that's more important to quote unquote being black than, just like, oh, we're talking about whatever the latest rap album is. We're talking about whatever the newest clothing trend is, which I'm not bagging on any of that stuff and not saying it's not important. It's part of the culture. Like, there's no reason to have anything over top of anything else, but it expresses it. Everything can be expressed in more than just one way.
What you're saying is you want the freedom to be who you are.
Yes.
If Chad from the suburbs listens to Kendrick Lamar, then someone's going to think, oh, Chad likes Kendrick Lamar. If you or I listen to Kendrick Lamar, it's, oh, there's that black guy being black doing all kinds of black things again. This is your identity.
Exactly.
So I also want to talk about something that actually happened to me at work today, and I actually made note of this.
Do tell. I want all of the tea.
No, it didn't really happen to me. It just happened, and it put a thought in my head.
Okay.
We've been playing music for Black History Month. And
yeah, we've been getting some of that same music too. I feel like there could be a whole discussion about that, but we're gonna table that.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna touch on it a little bit. It was a small thing that made me think of a bigger thing, and it was so prominent in my mind that I wrote it down. And we have playlists that we play at our stores, and when you switch the playlist, after a while, it defaults back to whatever playlist it wants to play. And it kept going back to this one playlist in particular. And the songs were really like, there was just really like, oh, I've suffered so much because I'm black, and it's been a hard time living. It's been a hard time living, but I'm too afraid to die.
Yeah, I love the song Sinner Man, but that played at my place of work about like 5-6 times. Like, and I was just like, come on, really?
Like we as people have been mistreated in this country, and we've had to overcome a lot, but we're more than that.
Yes, we're more than just our suffering.
We're more than just our suffering. Can we not always...
No, I'm not trying to stop you, but you just reminded me, I have that thing that I said I was going to talk about tonight. We don't have to talk about it right this moment. I want to finish where we're going with this.
Okay, all right, so let me...
That story, remember I sent you?
Yes.
Or that post I sent you.
Yes. We're gonna wrap this up in a neat bow. Because
I'm gonna need to go off on that, but not necessarily right this moment.
I want you to touch on that, and then I'm gonna touch on Gina Carano, and then we can wrap it up. Deal?
I'm still processing that one part you just said, but I'm gonna let that slide, I guess.
Can I say this, and then I'll go back to this? When this news came out about Gina Carano, I went back and looked at her old fights where she lost, just so I could see her get punched in the face.
Okay, I know we're not saying there's a certain way to be black, but if that's not the blacks that we've
Right?
talked about that, just like look, just it's already happened. I already saw her take this one L. So let me go watch this series of L's she's taking.
Yep. So anyway, to wrap this up in a neat bow, I don't like the way that so much of so much recognition of black history and black contributions to America is focused on the suffering, and
Yeah.
it just feels bad. And there's a song by Amir Suleiman called "Like a Thief," and there's a verse in the song, and I wish I could play it for you, but I'm gonna read it to you. And this album was released in 2000, so he makes some references that are a little bit outdated here. He says, where is it? He says, they say we need more. Okay, he says, they say we need more black mayors and lawyers. I say we need more black John Mayers to win Grammys for singing songs about our daughters. Because we are caught in a culture of defeatism, worshipping victims and martyrs. We are not victims, but victors. If we but witness or honor, our brilliance, our resilience, and our beauty is farther than pimpin' hoes, trickin' dope, Gucci, and Prada. And what that verse means to me is, I think it's really important to be proud of, as a whole, the resilience that black people have shown in the face of people wanting us to not exist anymore, and the fact that we still exist. But at the same time, our existence has not been just constantly losing. If people want to focus on the suffering, can we also focus on how we've worked to pull ourselves out of that, and how we're still working to pull ourselves out of that, and the progress we're making? Why must Black History Month be reduced to all the terrible suffering that we've been through? Like, it's that culture of defeatism. Like, we're not victims, but victors. Like, we win sometimes too.
Yeah.
So let's focus some on that to encourage people to not lose hope and continue. And like, we don't always need the white savior. Can we get away from that just for a minute? Can I go to work without hearing about how bad Jim Crow laws were? I know. Can we mix that in with songs about successful black people, black excellence? Can we do that?
Yes.
Am I asking too much here?
I don't think you're asking too much. I think that's reasonable.
Thank you. And that's it. That's all I got to say about that. So
I think that I love where you're going with that. I love the energy, and I love the fact that we're talking about, which we've been talking about. This is the second episode for the month, but we're talking about Black History Month. So speaking of that, I want to bring up something that I saw that I sent to you.
Are you gonna need your tangent music for this?
Oh, I'm gonna need some tangent music.
All right,
maybe not the tangent music. You know what I should have asked you to do?
What's that?
I should have asked you to play your Sussex County music for this part, because I feel like that's what I probably could have used.
Oh man,
for this.
I'm sorry.
No. It's not your fault. That should have been better prep on my part.
Maybe if during pre-production I wasn't singing along to Throat Babies, I could have. I actually did work on the show. I would have that for you.
I mean, maybe. Okay, so okay, what is the corniest, goofiest music that we have?
I'm gonna say this, even though let's see here, the corniest, goofiest music. So I think this.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yep. That's what I need.
Okay.
So this was brought to my attention from a mutual friend of ours, Claire, that we went to school with.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, Claire, if you're listening. But she posted that she saw this ridiculous, asinine, fuck. I don't even know how to best explain this garbage that I'm about to read to you.
I'm gonna load it up so I can read it along with you.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Oh no, you can go ahead. I'm just gonna find it while you're.
Got you. So, this is not Claire's opinion. This is obviously not the opinion of anyone here at Misinterpreting Movies. This is the opinion of a dumbass, of a right fucking idiot.
Okay, so. Okay, another question for you before you get started.
Yes.
Would you like to read this, or would you prefer me to read it in my Sussex County man voice?
You know what? Sussex County man voice it up, because then we're going to turn it over and I'm just going to go in on this bullshit.
Okay, so let me find it here on my computer instead of on my phone. Let's go ahead and make that full screen. So I don't want to take your rant music away, so should I do this?
Sure. You know what? That'll work as well.
All right, so
look at that. Whiteness works for so many things.
I know. It's just the default. It's just like it's like a blank sheet of paper. You can be whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So this post is there was no whoever posted it. Their name is was scratched out on the screenshot. Like it's gone. Don't know who this person is. I don't know if it's a male or a female. But in my story, it's gonna be a dude. So, oh my gosh. Do you have any last words?
The only other thing I can say is...
I'm gonna pop a throat soothing lozenge.
You're probably gonna need it. But the only other thing I can say is that pretty damn sure no one listening to this podcast is of this opinion. But if you know someone who has, this is gonna sound familiar, but this is literally some of the stupidest talking out your ass bullshit that I've ever heard. But you know, let's go with this. Let's go forth, Tyrice. When you're ready.
I think I'm ready. Let's see if I can do this with this honey ginger drop in my mouth. So this question is not intended to. You know what? This actually adds to it because I sound like I got a jaw full of dip.
There you go. Work with that. Feel that and go.
Okay. This question is not intended to sound racist or ignorant. So, if you're going to be critical of the question, keep scrolling.
First of all, that's the first mistake. How are you going to sit there and say you can't be critical? You
post it to a public forum and then tell people not to be critical?
Exactly. But anyway, please continue.
Man, there is some... Whenever someone says that this is not intended to sound racist, it's going to be the most racist thing you've ever heard.
Ever.
Okay. So let's see what wasn't intended to sound racist. Question. What have African Americans done for the country as a whole? Name a black person who has contributed to this country something that benefited everyone and was not about slavery and or black rights. Because I've been looking, and the only person I found so far is George Washington Carver. All the other famous black people are and were either civil rights leaders for the black community, helped free the black slaves, more than just blacks were slaves, but the black people were the most known about, or are famous athletes, actors, poets, etc. And while that's laudable, it still doesn't give anything valuable to the country. I'm talking about inventions, discoveries, notable war heroes like Washington or Jackson, etc. We have a whole month dedicated to black history, and the most famous person everyone focuses on is Martin Luther King? But what about someone else? Has the black community truly contributed to making this country better as a whole? To helping it progress? Or are they mostly focused on their own cultural group and taking care of their black Americans first?
So,
What say you, Joe?
We're gonna switch this music around right now so I can go to fuck off on this.
You know what? I don't think that your rant music is gonna do now. We need...
Okay.
Get black on him, Joe!
This is gonna work. This is gonna work.
The floor is yours.
Bitch. Where the fuck do you get off asking such a ludicrous fucking question? Honestly, what possessed your tiny pea brain to ask such a fucking question? What have African Americans done for the country as a whole that hasn't just benefited African Americans? What? Martin Luther King is the only well-known black person for the month. The only person who's done anything besides slavery and black rights is George Washington Carver. Where are you doing? You're doing your research listening to an elementary school play about black people instead of actually looking up anything. You know what I was originally going to do? Originally, I was going to go ahead and make a list of the achievements of black people that they have done in this country. Inventions, things that have added, things that they have contributed to policy, things that they have done to make change in this country. I was going to go ahead and talk about the fact that you can trace most of the music that we listening to black people. That gospel that became the blues, that became country music, that fucking twang ass shit, because not all country is bad, but that twang ass shit that you want to fucking
love me some John Prine. Continue.
Your dead ass fucking dog, or not your dead dog, but cried because your dog died and your tractor left you. Not that your woman left you, your tractor fucking up and left you. With all that bullshit. But, like, you wouldn't have any of that shit. You wouldn't have rock music. You wouldn't have fucking Nickelback. I fucking hate Nickelback. You wouldn't have that bullshit if it wasn't for black people. I'm not even counting that as a strike against us because, shit, like, something had to suck, and I guess it's Nickelback. But, I was gonna go in and really talk about some of the contributions that were made, because there's so many and it doesn't even take that much work to look it up. And then I thought about what you said, and I thought about the fact that you asked what they were doing to help everyone as a whole, or if they were just gonna focus on their own cultural group and taking care of black Americans. And then I remembered the whole reason we got over here in the first place, because you lazy ass fucking no lip having mayonnaise bag motherfucking ass didn't want to do your own goddamn work, so you got us to do it. Are you serious? The only reason we came over here in the first place is because you didn't want to do something on your own. You couldn't even do for yourself, so you got someone else to do it for you because you were too lazy sipping tea in fucking Alabama or whatever other bullshit that you were doing. Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious?
Is this why when, like, racist white people get angry about not being able to return things, they get so upset because they remember how badly they want to return us and they can't?
Oh yeah, it's gotta be. There's no manager they can go to except for themselves. It's just like, I would like to return this. That is the whole thing. That's what this whole post is talking about. Turn my music back up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because we ain't done. No. We are not done. Are you fucking kidding me? The audacity to ask this question when we were brought over here to do work so you didn't have to. That's exactly what you're mad about. The fact that when we fought for our freedom and for our chance to be free people, and when we got that and you couldn't fucking stand that, you couldn't just send us all fucking packing, because then you were done with then you were done with us and there was no other need for us. Were you thinking about us? Were you thinking about anyone else other than your own lily white sensibility? I don't think so. To this day, how many things are done for themselves? How many rich white people do we have doing for themselves for others, trying to cut off communities, trying to take cultural things from us and have it for themselves? And you're gonna talk about fucking doing for someone else? Nothing. Just about nothing that started this country was done for black people who were brought over here. Yeah, there were other slaves, but you better not be talking about the Irish. They were indentured fucking servants. And that was your own shit about white people not being able to get along with other white people.
Okay.
When you make an enemy of your own people, what the fuck do you have a right to say about anyone else?
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I feel like I don't want to alienate our white audience, so I'm gonna code switch and say the exact same thing you said in a way that's more palatable for the whites. Well, golly. oh, mister. Leo, you're walking on thin ice, pal. So actually, hold on. I'm gonna get rid of this. I hate the way my voice sounds when I have this in, so hang tight. Okay, that's gone. So this post was really interesting to me because, wow, I speak so well. This post was really interesting to me for a few reasons. And it's the same reason why these posts are always interesting to me. And I'm gonna go through them and I'm gonna touch on all of them in a way that's friendly and non-confrontational, because that's what I have to do if I don't want to be the angry black man.
I am glad to take up that role, and I would like to state, just so it is stated, obviously I'm not lumping every white person in with that. I'm dealing more of whiteness as a construct and a use of force as a weapon, as opposed to like actual people.
You know,
so
I was gonna say we could do, in my mind, in just a split second, my mind traveled from, we're gonna do good cop, bad cop, but then I was like, black cop, white cop, and then I was like, that's just bad cop, bad cop. There is no good cop, bad cop. So we're gonna do bad cop, bad cop. So the problem with posts like this is there's so much to break down in every post that it's impossible to address it all. So there's so many things here that are wrong that if this were a building, you'd have to tear down the entire building and rebuild the foundation, because the foundation is weak. And with all of these conversations like this, you have to break it down to the foundational beliefs that people have, because if they're built on bad information, you're never gonna you're just building it on bad information. So first of all, it says this question is not intended to sound racist or ignorant. The problem with that is it doesn't matter what you intend. So we're not even going to touch on what you intend. What matters is how it's received by other people, and you have a responsibility to know how you're going to be received by other people. You don't have to care, but I feel like you have to have a responsibility for knowing, if I say this, it's going to sound super racist, and just own it. If you don't care, you don't have to care.
And not even that. It's such a bad faith argument. That's like shooting at someone with the hopes of hitting a target that's completely to the left and like 5 feet from them.
Right.
And thinking that if you shoot at them, it's magically gonna curve and go exactly where you want it to.
Like, this is not intended to kill you, but also, there's a really high chance that it will. So maybe you shouldn't fire that weapon.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you're going to be critical of the question, keep scrolling. So you're already absolving yourself of responsibility. So you're allowed to be critical, but no one else can. That sounds like white privilege. I don't know if this person is white, but it sounds very white. So the question, what have African Americans done for the country as a whole? Name a black person who has contributed to this country something that has benefited everyone. So I stop there because this person is already conflating race and ethnicity. Black and African American are not the same thing. I mean, people use them interchangeably a lot, but if you want to really get down to it, I know actual Africans who are American. They're African Americans, and we can talk about what Nigerians contribute. We can talk about what African immigrants contribute, but their struggles aren't necessarily the same as what black people in America are facing. They're similar in the way that we're similar in the way that we're seen by people like this, and they see us all as one just homogenous group. So that's wrong there. So we have to make sure that this person understands that African American and black aren't the same thing. So we have to break that down. Then this person continues. I'm assuming his name is Chet from Sussex. Says that's just an assumption. I bet it's safe. So Chet says, Name a black person who has contributed to this country something that benefited everyone and was not about slavery and or black rights. There's another problem there. Guess what? That does benefit everyone. So I quote him a lot, but one of my favorite rappers is Brother Ali, and he has two lines in his songs. One line he says, "Can't nobody be free unless we're all free," and another line in a different song he says, "The situation of oppressed people shows what we feel it means to be a human being." So basically he's saying that when you help one person or one group, everyone benefits. So to say that, besides helping black people, besides helping with slavery, what have black people done? Would be like me giving you $1 million, and then you saying, well, besides giving me $1 million, what have you done for me? No, I gave you $1 million.
Yeah.
Recognize that, please.
There's literally a million things in front of you that I've given for you,
right,
that I've done for you.
And we can name all the other things as well, but we're not going to overlook this one thing, because let's establish that first, and then we can go on to the other things that black people have done. And finally, this is the thing that always blows my mind, is why are people who know the least so vocal? Why are they so proud of their ignorance? Just because you don't know doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because you don't know what black people have contributed doesn't mean that they haven't contributed. And why do you jump on here and I would never jump on and give someone advice on how to fix their car. You know why? I'm not an auto mechanic. I don't know a thing about cars. So I'm not going to be vocal about someone saying, I need to get a new transmission. Nope, that's your brake pads. I don't know.
There's literally a chunk of that whole thing where remember what I was talking about, bringing it back around.
Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back
right,
around.
It's your turn
to the count of Monte Cristo. You didn't need all of these words. Do less. Instead of from the part where it goes, I've been looking and looking, all the way down to it says, but what about someone else? You could have cut that out and just said, I don't know how to Google.
Right. Right. Like, and it's that and music switch. It's that and
code switching.
Not only code switch. So it's that, and also you started out by saying, if you're going to be critical, keep scrolling. And then you ask a million questions. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone focuses on Martin Luther King. What about someone else? They're mostly focused on their own cultural group and taking care of black Americans first. ? And you're asking all these questions. So what you're saying is, if you are going to hold me accountable for my words, don't do it. If you're going to agree wholeheartedly with what I say and not challenge me, then please comment and tell me I'm right.
Basically.
What?
And more to the point, when is the last time this person has thought, I'm white, what can I do for someone else who's not white?
Or when has this person decided, I'm white, maybe I'll shut up about things I don't understand and listen and genuinely ask a question instead of coming right out with disrespect. If there's something I really don't understand, like if he really doesn't know how black people have contributed to the country, if he doesn't know that black people are also Americans,
and he is American, he's been through our educational system, there's a good chance he might not.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. But if he doesn't understand that black people are Americans, so that when black people have helped other black people, it's Americans helping Americans,
yeah,
I probably just blew his mind if he's listening right now. But if he doesn't understand that, then he should ask the question.
Well, I will get to I think the thing that I find the most gross about this is the person is basically implying we have to earn our right to have our history be known, and if we haven't done anything productive, then why is it necessary to have our history known? Right. And that's where do you get to make that decision that we have to prove ourselves worthy of having our history known? Motherfuckers know about serial killers, and how have they proven themselves necessary to be noteworthy and like people. There's so many books and stuff about them.
Yep, you're right. Do you mind if I code switch
Please.
for a second?
Go ahead.
I need a drink. Mine will be very short here. Is you dumb? All right, that's it. That's,
But I mean, fair point. Just the audacity and the nerve of this person to write what they clearly understand is fucking just bullshit, flat out racism, but then to tell you not to call them on it.
And that's the thing, this person may, you may be right, they may genuinely not understand what's wrong with what they're doing because they may have gone their whole life doing this, saying what they want to say and not getting anything in return. And they may have lived in their own echo chamber and gotten their own thoughts fed back to them, so they've thought that this is the way and they don't want anything new. But I do think that, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but I always do my part to kind of, when I feel like someone has been living in this echo chamber, I kind of like to pierce it a little bit and let them know that I'm going to bring you back to reality a little bit, because you don't live in a vacuum. And I'm sorry if no one else has told you this before, but I'm going to be the one to tell you. I will do my part to tell you, and I'm not going to be confrontational. I'm not trying to make you feel stupid. But if people bring this to me, I always go out of my way to address it, because you don't know what you don't know. and like I said, when people say dumb things like this, I have to know. I say this all the time. Either you don't know or you don't care. I can't really fault you for not knowing. But if you don't care, then that's a problem. And if I tell you and you still ignore it, now I know for sure that you don't care.
Yeah.
And and then we have a problem, and the respect is gone. There's no respect there anymore. But I don't know, this is how I operate. And this person is just, I just don't understand why people are so anxious to share how little they know about things. I don't get it. Like I said this before, when COVID first hit, suddenly everyone was an infectious disease expert. Everyone was an epidemiologist. When there were protests for Black Lives Matter, suddenly everyone was a sociologist. Suddenly everyone had a degree in criminology. When there was, it's what? You don't know these things. Just say you don't know. It's okay to say you don't know. And ask people who do know their opinion, and then research that when they tell you. But
yeah.
This person is so vocal about stuff that he doesn't know about, and it blows my mind. And he doesn't want to hear anything else. Just take Facebook away from everyone. Just cancel it.
There's multiple reasons for that, but this is the obvious good one.
Just take it away. Like, it's not doing us any good.
No, it's not.
Wow, I completely lost track of time, and I didn't get to touch on Gina Carano.
Probably for the best for everybody involved.
But we will touch on Gina Carano in a future episode. However, let me load up my little
You go ahead and think about that. I'm just gonna go ahead and hug my buddy right here.
Oh, I hate you.
My little Grogu. Oh.
For those who can't see
boy.
right now, Joe has a giant. Is that a Lego?
Yo, yeah.
A Star Wars Lego Grogu that he is caressing. And
this was a anniversary present from my girlfriend. This is our child that we have together.
This is our child. That is amazing. Let's see here. I think that's all I got. So I'm gonna slowly pan up my outro music here. And I'm gonna give some final thoughts. Oh gosh, do you want to go first or should I go first? I don't have very many final thoughts to give.
I'm gonna throw down that reverse Uno card and
you jerk. All right, so to conclude this episode, I guess I'll just restate what I had stated in the beginning, and that's that this episode was all about it was about podcasting, but it was also about content creation in general and art, and just I wanted to talk about our own motivations for creating art, and maybe I just want people to consider, people who want to start a podcast or who are even thinking about it. And if you want to start a podcast, yes, you should. If you're wondering whether or not you can, yes, you can. You absolutely can, and you should. And I just want to remove that hurdle from people who have a desire to, for people who have a desire to podcast but feel like they don't know how to get into it. So this was the first episode where we talk about the mental, emotional side of it and just the creation side of it. And then the other episode is coming soon, hopefully, where we talk about all the questions that people have been asking me, like, what mic should I buy? How do I edit the audio? Where do I post it? What camera should I get? How do you edit the video? Just things like that. So that's coming. That'll be free. And then I'm also going to do a more in-depth one where I go into more detail about that kind of stuff. But I will say this, podcasting it's what you make it. It's really easy, and it can be as complicated as you want it to be. It's legit, you're speaking into a microphone. That's it. Anything beyond that is whatever you want it to be. So I will talk more about that in a future episode, and I will touch on Gina Carano. And I think that's it. So Joe, do you have anything else to add to the
Yeah, just to piggyback off it, I really enjoyed getting to learn about like how you got interested in podcasting and just kind of like your feelings behind podcasting. I agree with Tyrice. If you want to podcast, please do so. There's nothing stopping you. I can honestly tell you that if you're worried about if you're going to have something to talk about, if you're going to have something that someone's going to be interested in, if you're just nervous about the idea, I have no confidence going into this about my podcast skills, and I'm doing it because it's something that I'd found was fun. And you know what, the pandemic is still going on. A lot of us are still going to be home for the most of 2021. By all means, explore. Like, we're all kind of going through stuff. We're all kind of going through a rut. Everything is hard. And I think right now everyone is feeling going through just a sense of unease and just discomfort and just trying to hold things together. So you need to find the things that are really going to lift your spirits and just going to make you at least enjoy like being and doing. And if you want to start a podcast, do it. I'm not confident in my abilities, but I'm doing it. And if I can find whatever to do it, like, there's no reason why you can't. There's no reason why anyone else can't jump up and do a podcast. Talk about whatever you want. Talk about dogs. Talk about your hobbies. Talk about current events. Like, the idea with podcasts is everything is open for you to talk about and discuss. If you can discuss anything, you can do a podcast on anything.
And that's a really good, those are all really good points. And I would like to add to that, there's really no reason not to if you're thinking about trying it, because the cost of entry is so low. Again, it can be whatever you want it to be, but if you have access to a computer, computers have built-in microphones. You don't need to buy anything. The quality won't be super, but you can try it and see if you like it. You might hate it, so you don't have to invest $1 million to just see if you like it. Just do it.
To quote a favorite show of Tyrice and mine, try it. You might like it.
And I think that'll do it. I think we can have the DJ on the ones and twos.
Well, before we do that, I just want to say thanks everyone for another week of listening to our nonsense. Definitely make sure that you follow Misinterpreting Movies on our Twitter, Actually, if you can, I forget the Twitter right now. Off the top of my head.
It's at mmoviepod.
Yes.
Same as the Patreon.
Movie Pod. So, also check us out on Instagram. Tyrice posts clips. He'll post what we're going to be talking about sometimes if you can get to it in advance. You can follow Tyrice also on Instagram. Well, actually, trying to think, it's underscores you have, right?
Yeah. It's
okay.
skinny_mocha_latte. So you can follow me on Instagram. I probably won't accept you, but I'm just kidding. My Instagram is not private. So you can follow me on skinny_mocha_latte, or you can follow me on my Misinterpreting Movies page, which I don't update as much as the regular page. So follow me on either one. Yeah. There's another place you can follow me too.
www.patreon.com/mmoviepod.
See, for a second there, I wasn't sure if you had opened up the Misinterpreting Movies Facebook that you were threatening to do. So I was just like, wait, did I miss that one?
No, I don't have that yet, but I do have a Misinterpreting Movies OnlyFans that you. I'm kidding.
Well, if you remember last week's episode with the jumping jacks, if you want to see those jumping jacks,
Did you see? I put that on YouTube, by the way, and the caption was Tyrice's attempts to be petty was a giant flop. I was very proud of that.
No, and I'm mad I didn't because I was just afraid to look at that because I'm just like, no, I don't need to go back. I don't need to go back to that. You can follow me on Instagram at Joe the Stampede. You can also follow me on Twitter. For God's sakes, I don't know why you would want to. Twitter for me is just a lot of reposting things that I agree with, and I do talk to my friends. So if you follow me on there and we wind up chatting, cool. And everything, but it's Joe the Stampede or at Joe the Stampede on Twitter as well. I hate my Facebook, so I'm not giving out my Facebook right now. I go to it. There's interesting stuff there. There's things that I like, but I don't know if I want to just throw my Facebook out there.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
We're gonna have plenty more shows.
And definitely thank you for listening to the podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe.
Smash that like button, like and subscribe.
I found
and
a
leave
way
a
to
comment
say it.
below.
I found a way to say it where I don't hate myself. Don't ruin this for me. Or if you're listening, wherever you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Apple podcasts, and if you can leave a review, that would be awesome.
Yes, please.
We definitely want to spread the podcast and have more people listening to it and listening to our inane banner and Tyrice flopping his thing around in front of old racist ladies.
Don't call it a thing. It's got a name.
It's got a name.
No,
but
I'm kidding.
When I was thinking about when the word penis came in my mouth, it was going to come out as penis. I was just like, nope. This is going to be much worse.
But I also I want to add one shout out.
Okay.
So I want to give a shout out to Lauren. Lauren, hello. Hi, how are you? I'm giving
Lauren.
a shout out to Lauren because Lauren told me today that she's listened to several episodes of this podcast. I don't believe her. So Lauren, if you're listening right now, all you have to do is tell me that you heard this and I will give you $10. I don't think you will ever mention it. Anyone who is listening who knows Lauren, don't tell her. All you have to do is tell me I heard that segment and I will give you $10 on the spot.
In fact, if you know Lauren, please don't tell her. I'm going to message Tyrice and pretend to be Lauren and then have a
No. She's got to do it in person. You have to tell me in person. I will carry $10 in my pocket. I never carry cash on me, but I will carry $10 just for you in my wallet every day until you tell me.
But okay. What if you have to make that choice between, oh, I have that $10 for Lauren if she listened, but there's Popeyes open right now.
Then, well, which came first, the Popeyes or the Lauren? Do I see Lauren first, or do I know the Popeyes is open? Because I can lie. I can definitely lie for Popeye's chicken. But I think that'll do it. Lauren, if you hear this part, just tell me. I'll give you $10. But I'm never going to lose that $10 because you're never going to hear this. So with that, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. Until next time, toodaloo.
Misinterpreting all the movies that you've seen. You might not have seen all the movies we're misinterpreting. That's alright, that's okay. You're really smart, and that's fair play. Misinterpreting all the movies that you've seen. You might not have seen all the movies we're misinterpreting. That's alright, that's okay. You're really smart, and that's fair play. Misinterpreting.
Now, if you guys will excuse me, I gotta go down to 101.
Nope.
Just kidding. I didn't leave. I'm still here. I didn't go anywhere. I got you good. I didn't leave. However, the episode is definitely over.